In this first session, we're going to look at nuts and bolts stuff, more timing and more spacing. Though some of the things relate to 2D, these principles still relate to every kind of animation. After all, it really is all in the timing and in the spacing. We'll have to do the classical animation thing just for a bit more on our numbering system. Are you a member of KISS? K-I-S-S? You know this?
Keep it simple.
That's it. Keep it simple. Stupid. And use simple numerical sequences, for God's sake. The trouble with this numbering thing here that Warner's used, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they used this system because they were mostly on animating on 2 exposures. So if you need ones, say I'm talking normally, a normal action, I can do 2 exposures every drawing, normally on 2s. And then I want to go like that. I can try to do it on 2s, spacing the thing and leaving a big gap in the middle, but it's better if I just add 1s. So you'd have to add in, say it was here, you call them 2A, 3A, 4A, or 5.5, whatever you want to do. It gets mucky. And the dial, which I've used, in the exposure sheet, which is either dialogue or the dial numbers that are in the camera, like in the computer, don't use this method. Use what Milt did. If he's animating on 2s, he would use the dial numbers. 1, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25. Then, if you've got to drop in some 1 exposure, some 1s, you just put them in here like that. And that means your stuff on any other column, your B drawings, so you've got a hold here, you come in at 9B, and that could be 10, 11 if there was a, see what I mean? If you do a hold, you come back in on 25p. See what I mean? It all becomes, it's the same as the dial number or the number in the camera. It means you can make changes easily because you're thinking just 1 to 9. Well, I mean 1 to 10, right? Milt said he thought he had invented this system. I don't think he did. I think it's just the intelligent guys at Disney's just did that. And he would say that if I see a bunch of drawings on my desk that are odd numbers, I know I'm on 2s. And if I see any even numbers, I know I'm on 1s. So he developed this later, or he used it later anyway. The other thing is, the only time you would circle a drawing would be if we go back to 1, and we're using drawing 1 again. Say it's a cycle or something, or for some reason we're using 1, 3, 4. Let's make that a 2 in there. It makes it simpler. See what I mean? And that says to the cameraman, whoops, start back at number 1, because it's a reuse. Okay? The only time you would also put a number ahead of like B1 would be on a held cell, which we would put H1 and hold it. Say it was a table in front of, there's Daffy Duck. There's a table here in front of him, overlapping him, and that would be H1. Or overlay 1. You know, there's a battle about where do you use, wait a minute, 1s or 2s? Okay? Now, for fast actions, somebody running, I'm running on 1s, right? On computer, you have all your stuff on 1s. You're lucky. But with us, if we can do somebody talking like this, there's no reason to put it on 1s because there's not much overlap. But it's when it does something broad like that, you need 1s. A ballet dancer, anything like that, that's 1s. But me just standing here yammering is 2s. There's no reason to do twice as much work. Now, I want to refute a genius here, who I think is wonderful, but in this case is wrong. There's a battle that goes on and on and on. Here's Frank Thomas says, he says, a fast action on 2s had more sparkle and spirit than the same action with in-betweens, which tended to make the timing too even and remove the vitality. I think why he says that, in their experience, is that you animate a thing on 2s, and then you just have somebody put in the in-between drawings on 1s, right? And then it's mushy. But if you're animating on 1s, which is what I do, it's always better on 1s. Ken Harris, who spent his life on 2s mostly, we used to put in 1s later, he would say, oh God, it's always better on 1s. So I think the saying that 2s is better is an economic answer to an artistic question. It's always better on 1s, always. With one exception, and I used to do this stuff, I would have it traced and painted on 1s, and then I'd take out, we'd shoot it in color, using the 1s as we'd done it, and then we'd take the drawings out, every other drawing out, or every other cell painted out, and shoot the same action again on 2s, and it was never better. Except once, and I had this old witch taking out a stethoscope, and I cannot figure out why, and nobody else could. It was funnier with every other drawing out. It was funnier on 2s. I don't know why. That's the only case. Now, Art Babbitt, Frank Thomas, and all those guys say, 2s sparkle, because it costs so much more to do twice the amount of work, and twice the amount of work for every department. Walt Disney apparently is one of the first to say, do it on 2s, because he's going bankrupt. So trace and paint, camera, everybody all the way down the line is doing twice as much work to get this very smooth effect. So they all brainwash themselves, I think, into saying, oh, it's sparkly and great on 2s. but I didn't find it to be the case, except for this one exception. So the battle of the ones and twos is kind of rubbish. I think it's ones and twos, not ones or twos. It's both. You use ones for fast actions, twos for normal actions. And I would say that doing it on ones is twice the work, but it's actually 3 times the effect. Because you want to grab the audience by the throat and make them look. And that Roger Rabbit opening, it's all on ones, practically. Not when he's counting on his fingers, I don't think, when he's talking. Even a lot of that with the ears is on ones. You want to make people look, it's going to be better on ones. There is this one thing where you have to pan with if the character, say it's a lion's head going up like this, and if you're panning the background on ones and the lion's head is on twos, there's going to be a chatter. Here, the background is panning past on ones, but the man's on twos, so he jitters. Here, the background is panning past on twos, and the man's also on twos, so it sort of works. Now, both the background pan and the man are on ones, and it works, no jitter. There's a couple of odd things about spacing. We're going to... This is the ground, and there's a telephone pole down here, and a telephone pole here. And we're going to do a dotted line. Okay, we're going to draw the passing position, the in-between position of the telephone pole, right? Can I have an unsuspecting volunteer who doesn't know this trick, but who would know where to put the drawing? Where would you put the middle? Volunteer? Anybody? Great. Just put it where you think it is. Obviously, it's going to be down. Good, and wherever you like. Good, very intelligent. That's what I was hoping you would do. That's a very intelligent decision. However, in actuality, the way to figure it out, which is what you're going to blow my game here. There's where she is. Isn't that interesting? So it's something to bear in mind in spacing. So if a character at Warner's, when they're running the coyote up at you, you would bear that in mind. Now, however, you're both right in the sense that what they found was that's technically correct, but it's actually rather better to cheat it very slightly forward each time. Looks better. Don't ask me why. So you would do this all the way up. You would, roll, find the one in the middle, and just push it forward a little bit. Find the one in the middle, push it forward, it wouldn't be there. Oh my God, where am I? It would actually be a little better to do it there. Let's apply the same thing to a running figure. Treat the head as an oval and find the midpoint. Animate the head with the same system and add the body. We all know what this feels like. When something is coming at you, the images are clustered in the distance and they separate as they come towards you. When things are going around a corner, they appear to cluster at the edges and they separate in the center. Animators usually think of arcs kind of in a flat, two-dimensional way, but arcs are just as often like this. The images clustering at the edges, separating in the middle, clustering at the edges again, separating in the middle, and clustering at the edges again. Let's take a ball revolving around a central point. We'll show the top view and the side view at the same time. Looking at the top view, the ball is evenly spaced as it travels around. But when we look at the same thing from the side view, it's clustered at the edges and separated in the middle. Some of the balls at the edges sit right on top of each other. It appears to travel fast around the front and clusters at the edges. There's a principle here. If you were to turn a face from here, and he's going to turn to the front here, your passing position or breakdown, or it's better to throw the thing off, displace the in-between drawing. Whoops, which would be sort of there. Display, I'll just call it the in-between. I mean, otherwise it's going to look just like you got a circle here, and the features are just going to go around a globe, like they're just moving around the front of a plexiglass globe. So what you want to do is just to get that. Here's what it looks like if we don't displace the in-between position. Dull, because there's not much volume. Now let's displace the middle position. It gives some volume. Let's go further and displace and drop the middle position. We get even more volume. Here's the classic in-betweener's mistake. You've got a hammer coming here and a nail there. And it's going to, he's going to hit the nail wrongly. So the nail bends. Our hammer is going to hit the nail badly and bend it like this. Here's our mid position. Bam! But our dozy helper does this. I mean, it's funny, but that happened all the way through the rabbit. I couldn't believe you get it. They're just putting senselessly putting drawings. They're robot people. Here we go again. Our slumbering in-betweener strikes again. Obviously, it's this. We're in-betweening forms, not lines. The thinking in-betweener in-betweens the forms. The unthinking in-betweener just in-betweens lines. I need a volunteer just for a second. Let's get you again, since you were right before. This isn't a test. This is just a thing. Just a little thing which people don't notice, which is very useful. If you stand there, I guess, stand just like me?
Yeah.
With one, there you go. Lovely. And that's it. Just now relax and look at that finger, and then turn your head and look at the next one. Excellent. You refocus, right? In any kind of a head turn, we naturally blink in the middle. We usually blink on a head turn. But if we're alert or frightened, we don't. Because there's a certain amount of squashing and stretching in life, animators for humor have tended to exaggerate squash and stretch and overuse it. At its best, it's hilariously funny. Even in realistic animation, it can be useful in a very reduced form. The top animators on Bambi found that even in the subtle movements of a deer, there is a very slight amount of squash and stretch. However, at its worst, you get this crude rubber duck sploopy effect. I try not to overuse it. The problem is you lose solidity. I'll show you how you can get all the flexibility and vitality that you will ever need without resorting to squishy cartoon effects. However, what animation does need is a change of shape. And one way of getting a change of shape is squashing and stretching. The question is, how much squash and stretch do we use, and when do we use it? It certainly works well for a cartoon. And for a bouncing ball. But I found out early on that we can get a very good result without it. I discovered this by just shooting a coin with good spacing. You can get a very good result, a very good bounce, using a rigid coin. Now, using squash and stretch, Ken Harris showed me a very interesting thing to increase change of shape by stretching out the contact position. Ken Harris said, look, you need to get another drawing in there to get an increased change of shape. Now, a lot of this will have to do with the timing, but try to get this. You can see what's happening. And then that. Try to get a contact if you're doing a stretchy thing, and try again when it's coming off to keep a contact as it goes up. Try to get a contact in here and try to keep the contact there. This extra contact position gives us more change of shape, but it will be a softer hit. Take it out and you get a harder hit. So it's the principle is like if the coyote is flying through the air and he's going to hit that wall and he's going to go splat. That's a desert wall, however he is. He's going to go thwack there. I say there's another drawing here, for sake of argument. Try to get a contact, maybe the nose, it's to try to get that it contacts again before you get the big change of shape.
In animation, we need at least 5 drawings or positions to go across the screen or to jump out of it. For a stronger hit, we'll take out drawing number 6 and throw it away. For an even stronger hit, we'll take out drawing number 5 and throw it away, and do a new drawing number 5, contacting the cliff and stretched out to twice the length.
And it's the same thing. He's got a frog. Let's turn this into a frog. He's got the frog like this. It would be much better to have the hands hit. You see what I mean? Frog's like this. Right? The frog then hits and squashes up, however he is down here, squashed. And then when he goes up again, get some green, have at least one of the hind legs contacting the ground.
Stretch out the arms to make an early contact and keep it.
And it's the same with a jump. If somebody's jumping, you want the foot there, you want to get that contact on the ground.
Have at least 1 foot contact early and keep a contact.
So it isn't bump, bump like that, unless you want to particularly do that. It's always much bump, bump. See what I mean? So have a contact. Always try to have contacts, extra contacts, so that you get a bigger change of shape. Everything starts to get in. Once we get the systems going, everything becomes change of shape.
This has all been about spacing. Now let's get back to timing things.
There was a thing known in Warner Brothers, certainly, Ben Washam's 12-frame yawn. And Ben Washam was the sort of charming animator for Chuck Jones. And he was a very good guy. And when he first came into animation, he was a good drawer, and he did this elaborate thing of a guy yawning. So he goes, you know, and Ben did 12 drawings. You know, shoot that on 12. I mean, that's 12 frames. So you get, and then shock horror. They then shot it on 2, so you get, so then Ben learned that the timing is that you do the timing first. How long does the yawn take? At least 2 seconds. And then you figure out where to put your drawings, and then the spacing, right?
Here are the charts which indicate the spacing. Here it is again. The conclusion is it's all in the timing and the spacing.
Beginner animators always put in far too much action in the short space of time. They do a walk, and they get their arms going like this, you know, instead of the arm's doing bugger all. You know, they're just walking. As a normal walk, you don't see much happening. So a beginner he's all over the place. And then the old guys, they're tired out and they don't do enough. It's just like that, you know. So the whole problem in spacing like this is to get the right amount of action in the right amount of time, right? That's the problem, isn't it? And the way to do it is act it out. And I think, you know, I keep saying, let me write it. Use the video. It's saved animation. Test. Test and test again. Art Babbitt used to get madder than hell at me for using the video. Because he'd say, you're cheating. You're using that video as a crutch. He'd say, don't you think you think you're getting all the, you know, you're using that as a crutch. And I said, no, I'm just using it. I said, what's the difference between that and a pencil test? And he said, well, it's not a pencil test. I said, yes, it is. It's a video version. And he was, and I said, is it better to go into the cameraman at 6:30 at night when he's trying to go home and give him all your tests and then send it into the lab and get it in at rushes the next morning and wait for the editor to get it cut in, and next noon you get to see your test and find it was wrong and you have a lot to change? Why not go to the video and shoot the thing in 10 minutes and make your changes? So that's what I did, and I use a video like crazy. And he said, well, you should be able to do it without. And I said, yeah, but then you're doing cliches, you're routining. And in fact, Art, as he wouldn't use a video much, and he would have somebody leap. In the end, he was having a great big 200-pound king leaping into the air, and he'd be going like this. He didn't mean slow motion. I said, better use the video. It's a pencil test machine. So, test. We've looked at more timing and spacing issues, at how far apart we make the drawings, whether they're in clusters or far apart, and when to use squash and stretch. We've looked at how we time those drawings, whether they're on ones or twos, and how much time you need to do an action. Time it out first. In the next session, we'll tackle walks. Walks are fascinating, and we'll find how to build different walks with weight, personality, and style.
My coworkers thought I'd get fired for eating these gummies. Funny how I became the most productive person in the office.
And everybody, welcome to another Bancroft Brothers animation podcast.
Hey ho, Tom.
Tony, I know you're
Happy-
always the one to say, I'm so excited. I am excited today. This is going to
We're
be
going
a
to
good
start with the absolute.
And Happy New Year.
You may
because
think, show me something
2024,
interesting.
Is that part
I
of
know,
the
I know
happiness? Is
basics.
that where that's coming from?
You may think you
feeling
know
the
this
vibes
stuff.
of a new year?
Yeah,
But
you know what?
the
I
human
always
thing is
get
we don't know what
very
we don't know.
sentimental, very
You don't
nostalgic
know
about
what
the
you
new
don't
year,
know.
but also like
And if you
super
don't
excited
understand this
about the
stuff, this
future.
basic stuff properly, it's
I'm
going
a
to come
futurist,
up and bite you
Tony.
later.
We talked
Yeah.
about
I
this
can
before.
guarantee it.
I like
Yes.
to look forward.
So we're going to do everything.
And
We're going to build the
I'm looking
foundation.
at, now I do see
properly.
some scary
Everything
things
is
on the
based
horizon.
on
AI,
every sophisticated
out of
thing
the
is
way.
based on the.
Oof, you
yeah.
said it.
But I want to say this, Tony, the little news blurb, slightly tangential, but I just saw a news blurb just today. Sam Register, I've known him. I worked with him once before at Warner Brothers. He's the
Warner
president,
Brothers executive, top executive.
I think president at Warner Brothers Animation. He made in an interview, he made a remark where he said he was very anti-AI for their animation productions. For him to be basically someone representing one of the majors, one of the big studios out there, to go on record to say that he's against AI in animation production. I loved hearing that. And I shared it on LinkedIn.
I love that too. Sam has always been somebody that he's been with Warner Brothers forever and had, he's a friend to the artists. He really has. He's always been that. So it kind of doesn't surprise me, but for him to come out so boldly and publicly is great.
Yeah. And I hope he can keep all the executives and things around him away and at bay and stick to that and all that like he wants to.
2024 is going to be a time, Tom, where you and I on this podcast, we've talked about it quite a bit. We're trying to come up with that ultimate podcast where we talk about our feelings about AI, but also get other people's opinions included in that, people that really know and are using AI already. We want to hear pros and cons, really kind of both sides of the story, right?
It's happening already. We already know that. Anybody that's done even a light dip of their toe into this subject knows that there's a lot of studios, especially the foreign ones. I think it's pretty prevalent in those TV productions and China and places like that. But generally, it's for the concept design phase of it. I don't know how much of that we've seen it move into the animation phase where those jobs are getting taken, 2D animation, I mean, specifically. But that is coming. We're seeing more and more.
Oh, yeah.
There's a general acceptance, except for in the art world. There's a very big acceptance, more of an embracing of AI. It's shocking to me how quickly businesses, and it's really all money and greed driven.
I mean, let's face it, Tom, the conversation is not, should we AI? It's absolutely happening. If anybody is still has that argument of like, let's stop AI. There should be no AI. Forget it. Boop. It's gone. That conversation is long, long gone. We are in the world of, we have AI. How do we use it responsibly? And what does that mean for the artists? And that's the conversation we want to get to on the podcast in 2024. So today, Tom, oh my gosh, dream come true.
This is it.
This is very personal for you and I.
This
right?
is our second interview with this person. But this is the one we've been wanting to do. And boy, I miss Mark-Ken. I'm just going to say his name. But everybody knows who we're talking to. You've seen it in the title. Mark is such a dear and tender person, a friend of ours, and my mentor. I know, Tony, you count him as mentor too. I'll wrestle you.
I do. Why can't
I'm going to wrestle you for Mark-Ken.
Okay.
You can, but I did it for years, and you were kind of a light touch. That's
all right. But for those that don't know, and we're going to be talking about this, Mark-Ken is a Disney legend, if not hands imprinted already, probably will be coming, hopefully before he dies. We'll get to that soon. But been around in the 2D animation world of Disney for 43 years. And I say 43 years because there has been an end to that. He just retired from Disney. And this is the podcast where we're going to talk about that legacy of Mark Henn, because he means so much to us. He's taught us. He's taught so many,
So many people.
generations, but
Yeah.
yes, generations of different people that have grown up with his work, but also have learned from him in the studio. He means a lot to all of us. If you haven't, you've seen all the movies that he's worked on over the years. But I had to go to IMDb, and then it said "see all," and I had to like open up a second page because there's so many of them. But the 2D things, he did Mickey Mouse and Mickey's Christmas Carol. He was on Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron, The Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, Little Mermaid. Oh my gosh.
He drew animated Ariel and Little Mermaid.
Yes, worked on a
Say
bunch
some
of
characters here, Tony. Come on.
Yeah, Ariel. Okay, yeah. Prince of the Pauper. He did Mickey, of course, again in that. Rescuers Down Under, Bernard and Bianca. I mean, he kind of did every character. And that's the thing about Mark. He's so fast. He's done like every character in every one of these films. Beauty and the Beast. He worked on Belle. Did a ton of Belle stuff. The one where she's reading the book on the fountain and stuff. You remember that scene? Aladdin, he supervised an animator. Jasmine, Lion King, Young Simba, Pocahontas. He worked on Pocahontas. Mulan, of course. Mulan. He is Mulan. Come on. That's why we call Mark Henn the girly man of animation, right? He can't defend himself right now. But yeah, he is considered the girly man because he's done so many princesses over the years. But he's gone on to do, he worked on Emperor's New Groove, like we couldn't finish it on time, so we called in Mark Henn, and then he just finished the whole film for us. Lilo and Stitch and Home on the Range. Some of these things he's helping out on. Some of them he's doing major roles. Oh gosh! And then he got into CG, working on doing drawovers and all kinds of stuff.
You left out Tatiana.
Tatiana in
Princess and the Frog.
Why isn't that here? Okay. Oh, it's way up. Okay.
Yeah.
There's some out of order here.
But that's a major one.
But then
bring in Mark
Henn. Yes, let's just bring him in now. Come on in, Mark Henn. Let's hear it for him.
Mark Henn.
Oh my gosh.
Were your ears burning like crazy in the green room?
Yeah, the green room turned red.
You do look a little pinkish.
Welcome to the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast, Mark. And this is our tribute episode to you, man. 30. Did I say it right? 32 years now?
No, 43. What are you talking about?
What? Okay, sorry. Then I did say it right. 43.
Got to start over.
Yeah. We don't edit, but it's 43 years, not at Disney, not just the animation industry. Do you add a couple more years for CalArts or anything else?
I mean, CalArts would be the only thing you could add. So 2 years at CalArts, but other than that, it's
45 years. We could say 45 years in the industry, 43 at Disney. I think that's
43 years with Disney. Yeah,
man.
And you've been there. I mean, talk about legacy, and that's what we want to talk about with you so much here, because I didn't even get through all of your. It's almost impossible. We'd run out of time to get through all your credits and how you've influenced, obviously 2D. Obviously, the 1990s, where you had a huge impact in where Disney animation went and how successful it was. And then you started helping out when they went to CG, not by doing so much CG, but doing a lot of drawovers and stuff like that, and early tests and things like that. But let's start at the beginning. Is there a way? What has 43 years at Disney meant to you? What does that mean to have been there that long?
Start with an easy question. Wow.
I'm starting with a big question. I'm starting with like the big, and then we'll
It's hard to believe it's been that long, and it just went by seemingly in a blink. I was taking my last walk around the studio lot a couple weeks ago before I left, and it just was just a flood of memories, and it's just hard to believe it's been 43 years.
What was your last day? From where we sit right now, we're in January, but are we talking about like December, end of December is your last time? My
last actual day was the 21st, and had the week of Christmas to New Year's off. So officially my last day was the 29th, but I was in the office on the lot on the 21st was my last day.
And now I know that they did a little party for you. By the way, we were contacted about that. We almost recorded a video for that video that they were putting together for you, Mark. I just want you to know that, just because we really wanted to be a part of it. And it didn't work out because I think it slid or something about if that party was going to be, I don't know, an intimate thing or a big thing. I don't know what ended up happening. Can you tell us about sort of was there a goodbye?
Yes, there was a very nice farewell soiree, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Clark and Jen were very generous. They kind of went through what you guys just did. As Clark said, he likes lists. So he kind of listed, in a few minutes, pretty much between the two of them, my entire career. And my family was there, and we had a huge turnout.
So cool.
It was very nice. And then Randy Haycock got up and talked a little bit. And then he presented, this was totally blew me away, but they created a unique statue, like a maquette. They used the same company that does the maquettes.
I saw it. Yeah.
So it was gray. It was like a gray maquette, like what we've all seen. Okay.
They basically,
Corey Loftus's wife sculpted it, correct? Because I saw it online.
Elena.
Yeah. So they recreated a scene from Mickey's Christmas Carol of Mickey sitting at Bob Cratchit's desk. And it's about,
I understand Randy did the drawing for them, but it's based on your animation, right?
Randy Haycock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it just floored me. It was just absolutely amazing. And just, the well wishes from, all the people that stayed, shook hands, took pictures. I mean, it was very nice. It was very nice.
Did you tear up a little bit? Come on, did you tear up a little bit?
Of course he did.
I got a little choked up when they handed me the mic, of course. But when I got home on the 21st, this was the week before. This was like 14th. Was a Wednesday that they did this. But when I got home on the 21st, I walked in the door here at the house and I lost it. I cried like a baby. It was just very emotional.
Sad tears. I mean, sad for like, wow, what now? Or is it the tears of just like gratitude? What was that for you?
It was just a lot of different emotions. The floodgates just finally opened up. Sad to say goodbye to a lot of very dear friends, people that mean a lot to me. Sad that I won't be, I can't call that home anymore.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that a little bit. I mean,
well, yeah,
43
I would
years.
imagine they would let you come and go a little bit. Is there a little bit of that was implied on your way out? Like, hey, come by and visit anytime.
Yeah, they said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. No.
That's the opposite.
No. Actually, the plan is I will be going back, as I left a project that I had started unfinished. So I had started a little short film, and
that was smart. That was smart to leave something on the desk, right?
Yeah. So I had a conversation with Clark, and he assured me that to not put the pressure on myself to try to get it done by the end of the year. He said, well, it'll probably go into the new year. So according to the union rules, I have to wait like 2 months before I can go back to a studio. And then I have limited hours that I'm allowed to work. So I will be going back in the spring to try to get this little short film finished up.
And is that because like a lot of people, that would be just like, well, just keep working on it at home, as a freelancer or whatever. But I assume that's not something that is interesting to you at all, to do it from home.
I can't do it from home. I can't.
Oh,
it's
okay.
it was almost animated when I left. There were like 2 scenes left to animate. My assistant Rachel was keying shots. So we were right at that point where we were going to move into cleanup and then eventually painting and that. So I got backgrounds were being done by Laureline, and I'd gotten an editor. So I needed the studio to help get me across the finish line with it. So we're going to
is this something
get that done.
My assumption is you can't talk about it, and I get that, but is this something that you were directing? Like, it sounds like it's an extra special project, or are you just sort of like, was the main head animator, or did you animate the whole thing? Like,
no, it was just, it was something I was essentially directing, excuse me. And it was just, instead of sitting around twiddling my thumbs, I said, it's what I call the Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney thing. We got a barn, we got kids, we got, let's put on a show. So I had an idea, I have animators, and so it's just a simple little thing. It's less than like 3 minutes long. So I was directing it. And then one of the animators that I was using, we had 5 new trainees come in, and that was the goal, was to have them animate it. So one of them was let go. I took his scenes back and animated those shots, but the rest of the short is animated by our new trainees, and Randy Haycock did one shot.
Fantastic. And that's the group that did Once Upon a Studio.
Yeah, Once Upon a Studio.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That was the group that we hired in to do that, help out. Mm-hmm.
Now, that makes me think that then once this short is over, they're probably all going to get let go. Have they mentioned that?
Right now, there's only 2 left.
Okay.
The other, we had 5. We had 1 was let go. 2 had already completed their contracts and were, let go, and we have 2 left. I don't know what their, futures will be. I think, as far as legacy projects, they'll probably keep them both. There seems to be some new things coming down the pike for them to work on.
Well, and this is getting me to a question, but also an area that I want to talk about, which is 2D animation at Disney, obviously. So why I'm asking those questions isn't to make it this personal about those people, but just to say that it sounds very obvious. There is no 2D animation feature films, much less a lot of special projects coming down the pike to keep them employed, maybe even you. And that's the bigger question, is like, is part of the reason that you're leaving, Mark, because there just wasn't much 2D going on, and that's where your love and your heart is? Was that an element of this?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's honest. Yeah.
Because, like, to me, Mark Ken wants to hit 45 or 50. Like, you had a goal, I'm guessing. That
right.
Was like
you could have stayed longer if there was the material to work on, right?
If the work had been more meaningful, I think I would have stayed. And I told several people, it wasn't what I signed up for. And, some of it was interesting. Some of the stuff we were doing for the parks was kind of fun, but the other projects, and I know the people that were running that department are doing everything they can to keep 2D alive as long as they possibly can.
What department are you talking about? Special projects?
Legacy.
That's what they call that. Okay.
So, and I said we were doing stuff for the parks. We were doing commercials. I said some of it was okay, but it just wasn't as fulfilling, and I was not. Like I said, it wasn't what I signed up for, and I know.
Yeah, and
I get that.
I think that's what, like, Eric Goldberg and Randy Haycock, and we talk about some of the 2D animators that are still there that aren't doing CG. That's a lot of what they're kind of involved with, right? Are special projects and legacy projects.
No, it's Legacy. It took the name. Legacy took this place of special projects.
Right.
Legacy
project.
Yeah, Legacy took that. So it was essentially Eric was kind of the head of the department from that point of view. Randy was doing more of the computer drawovers as well as animating when things came up. And I was had not been asked to do any drawovers for any of the most recent computer films, although I did do one little scene for Encanto. It's the one and only time I've worked paperless, so I did some. I did one little shot for Encanto. But for the most part, I just.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask: was that in Toon Boom Harmony that you had to do that in?
Yeah, I think that's what we were using. Yeah, so we're still using the Harmony, but it just was time, and they weren't going to let me direct anything. I had pitched some feature ideas back during COVID, that at least 4 different ideas. That a couple of the ideas seemed to be there was an interest in. But then nothing ever came of it. I felt like since directing John Henry, I felt like I've had a sign on my back that said, "Don't let this guy direct."
Which is crazy. So I want to do this quick shout out for our listeners. A lot of people don't know this. Mark Henn has pitched many things through the years to become a director. And at one point, finally, they listened and they let him direct John Henry. A lot of people have a lot of nostalgia, Mark, for this film. I worked on it. I know this because people will come up to me and say, "Oh, you worked on John Henry. I love that film." I'm sure, Mark, you've heard this too. They ended up screening it at schools. You know, like back when I was growing up, on a rainy day, they would put on some kind of, one of those Jimmy the Cricket educational kind of cartoons
or something, or
Donald. And I think John Henry in the 2000s kind of took that spot and had a little bit of had a lot of runtime in the school systems, which is very cool. So a lot of you people, the listeners, have actually seen it, and because of that context, probably. I'm the same way as you, Mark. I thought, and I think you did too, and this is coming to become a question. I thought that would lead to you moving into directing a feature film, and I know that was your goal. And it sounds like that's been a major disappointment for the last. Because when was John Henry? Was that 15, 20 years
Well,
ago?
it came out in 2000, so it's over 20 years now.
Okay, so we'll say 23 years ago. So is that a kind of a lingering kind of a feeling that you've had? And obviously you've been pitching. You didn't give up. You've been pitching feature film ideas. Did they ever give you a reason why they wouldn't want the master Mark Henn to direct a film?
No.
I want to see that movie.
Yeah, and there were a couple of instances where at least twice I pitched an idea, the studio turned it down, and then it got made by somebody else. Twice.
Ooh. Wow.
Twice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can't talk about what movies those were. Pass.
We can if you'd like. I had pitched an idea about a true story based on a carrier pigeon in World War II. Oh, and in one of the last Gong shows that we ever had at the studio, and there was some interest, and then they finally passed on it, and then like several months later, the studio announced they're doing Valiant. And
right.
And I had a development person come racing down to my office to try to explain why these things happen. And then
just coincidence.
It's just a coincidence. And then right after, in the early 2000s, I pitched the idea of having airplanes.
Yeah.
And they got some interest, and then it was passed on saying it was too close to Cars.
Oh, wow.
And then they did it based on Cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
After Cars came out, then they put out some features, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Director video features, I think it was.
I mean, that does happen. I mean, there are, I could say that I pitched at times, and I pitched Puss in Boots after Mulan, didn't do it. Then DreamWorks picked it up as a character in their.
Wait, are you saying Jeffrey Katzenberg was in the room when you pitched it?
No, he wasn't. He was already over at DreamWorks.
So how does this relate. It doesn't
It
sound the
was
same.
years later that DreamWorks made.
So
Puss in
they
Boots.
heard of Puss in Boots, not Tony Bancroft pitching it.
No, what I'm
Probably.
saying is that Disney isn't always as progressive as we like to think. That they don't always take the risk that you think they would. In Walt's day, right? I guess this is my point. In Walt's day, there was a lot of risk being taken, and I guess that's a question for you, Mark. Is like with your 43 years of perspective at Disney Studios, how have things changed for you? I mean, in your opinion, the overall spectrum of feature animation.
Old Spice Cashmere and Vanilla Body Wash. 24/7 cologne quality scent.
Well, it's a CG world, and that's a fact that that changed years ago, right after Home on the Range was supposed to be the last one. Thankfully, we got to do Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh after that. After we had another management change, but since then, I think it's just too difficult for the studio to justify essentially creating a second studio within this current studio in order to do 2D.
Yeah.
Which is what you had when we had Princess of the Frog and Winnie the Pooh. We essentially had literally two smaller studios under one roof.
Yeah.
And I just think that just became too much of a financial risk. Right now we're barely able to house everybody that we can or that we have on staff. So, there are all kinds of logistical things just from where you're going to put people to, just taking that risk. So,
plus those animation desks, they got rid of all those animation desks along with the people. So it's not like you can just
let's face it, they wouldn't do it in paper.
Well, it'd be digital.
Anyway.
I know.
It would all be digital, and it would just be mandatory.
I call that tradigital, Mark, where you're working on a tablet but doing hand drawn.
We would have had a choice. I think they would have given people a choice, and so. Like Eric and I shared an office, and when we were working on Mini Maui together, and both of us worked on paper on that. So Mini Maui for Moana was, the cleanup was done digitally, but the animation was done traditionally on paper.
What a great! Sorry, I created an image of like somebody walking by in feature animation at Disney. Everybody's tapping on their computers, and there's one office that has Eric and Mark in it where you hear flip, 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 flip. That's nostalgic. That's really kind of cool.
That was at Tahunga too. That was the much beloved Tahunga facility. But our office was the office that they had us in was so small. We did literally bump into each other if we both backed up of our chairs at the same time. We would have.
What a crime!
Two
legends, masters of the craft, in the tiniest office probably at Disney. I don't know. So, obviously, Mark, we don't all want to be like super negative, and I'm not really trying to do that. But this is such an interesting to hear somebody that has your legacy, that has been there as long as you have, to not ask these questions is also a crime. So I love hearing your viewpoints of how this changed, because let's be honest, you're one of the, if not, well, we'll just say one of the last three, pretty much, of 2D animators, right? Like Randy and Eric and you. I think that's all there is, correct?
Well, and then the two trainees.
Well,
that we have.
newer trainees that have been there for a couple, a year or two.
But from like the
yeah.
90s that have stayed, through the 90s and all
Yeah,
that.
with the legacy for sure. What we could trace back to Aladdin, say, those days. That's you guys. And I do hear Eric is looking to retire soon. I don't know if there's a date been announced and all that, but I know that
he recently moved. I don't know if you heard that, Tom, but yeah,
I did.
I heard he's working from afar now. Do you know where he moved?
Yeah,
to,
he's working remote. I probably shouldn't necessarily say where he moved to. Yes, I know where he moved to, but he's working remote, so he's going to continue to do that. I have not had any conversations with him as far as retirement goes, but he's just a couple years older than me, so I'm sure that was part of the reason why he moved. He was looking ahead.
Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, he's going to continue to lead the legacy department. Randy primarily works from home. He comes in to do classes once or twice a week, and he's continuing to work from home. Like I said, I had him do a scene for me for my little short, and then he's working on one of the next CG films as their draw-over person. And
let's talk about that. I'm sorry, I cut you off. And then what? Winnie the Pooh?
No, I was just saying Randy is doing the draw-overs for the next computer film.
Okay. So, but I want to talk about that for just a second. Pull away from 2D animation just a tad, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on sort of where Disney is. And I'm talking about animators specifically because they all obviously still have amazing storyboard artists that draw. They still have amazing concept artists that are draw and paint. A lot more digital nowadays, but still it's drawing. Can you talk to me more about where animation is? I'll just say animation, but they're obviously all CG animators. You're training them. Randy is training them. Eric is training them to some degree, it sounds like. And I mean, on the drawing side of things, has drawing and animation sort of separated quite a bit to the point where it's becoming very problematic, like where some of the CG artists don't draw very well? Are you seeing, and is that a problem, is the question?
That's a good question. I've had CG artists come up to me and say how much they wish they could draw. That they have that desire. There are quite a few of our CG artists that came from the 2D background that are very, very talented, both CG as well as 2D. But they, this is where, this is what pays the bills, is to be able to do CG animation. And I give a lot of credit to a lot of our 2D people that made the transition successfully. I struggled with it. I made it through Meet the Robinsons. And then thankfully we had Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh to come back up later. But they have a real appreciation for hand-drawn animation and the principles of animation that go along with it. That's what Eric and myself and Randy have spent the last many years doing on either a large scale, like doing lectures, or on a small scale doing draw-overs. I would sit in the back of dailies with just a little pad and just make doodles, ideas, poses, and then if the animators would show their scenes, if I had some ideas, and I'd sketch down some little ideas about poses or things. As they're walking out, I'd hand it to them and just, give them a word of encouragement, give them, say, here's a couple of ideas I had that might help.
Were they open to that?
Yes. Our department, for the most part, was very, very open for that. And again, very appreciative of the heritage of Disney animation, Disney 2D animation. And that was, again, in a unofficial capacity, is what the three of us had been trying to do in various ways over the last several years.
Last question, really, about because I do want to go, Tom, and transition into positive stuff about. I want you to, in a moment, I want you to talk a little bit about highlights of your career and stuff like that. That'd be great to hear. But I know in recent times, and one of your last big 2D forays was being a part of Once Upon a Studio. That short means so much to so many fans now. I hear about it all the time. I only did one shot, one scene. And I hear it about a lot. So I know that you must hear about it a lot too, Mark. But Trent, the younger generation represented, just as you were saying, there are some that have grown up with 2D animation that just they're irksome. They're disappointed they couldn't be part of what we were a part of in the 90s. And Trent Corey and Dan Abrams, who directed and created the short Once Upon a Studio, are part of that younger generation that are really, they seem to be really focused on how can we do more of this? How can we bring back 2D animation to Disney and stuff like that? What did that mean to you to be a part of Once Upon a Studio?
Well, it was very special, like you said, and you had the opportunity to work on it. It was a great project, and Trent and Dan are both good examples of that appreciation that this next generation has for what you and I all worked on through the 80s and 90s, and even before that, the heroes that I looked up to. Yeah.
Oh, right.
But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. It was a fast production. We had everybody worked really hard, but it was a lot of fun. And you're right. It's the comments, the reaction from the audience, the people that have seen it. It's on YouTube now. That I think they've released it on YouTube, and it's
blowing up. Yeah,
it's very unique. Yeah, it's very unique. It's going to be another 100 years before anything even comes close to it. So,
okay.
It was
Mark,
like
my hands up, Mark. So I've worked with you for years. I know Mark Hen's work, and now I'm going to put it to the test, and I'm going to throw out a few scenes in.
Oh, you're going to try and guess which ones he animated?
I'm going to try and guess which ones
in Once Upon a Studio. Okay.
And I'm going to get a couple wrong, I have a feeling. But Tiana, especially, obviously, I would say you did Tiana, right?
Right.
Okay, that one's easy. But all the other characters, too, that were in that shot, is my guess. You did all of them. Is that true? Because I think there's other people in that shot. I don't have it in front of me.
Well, there's Pinocchio. That was done by Austin, one of our trainees. And there was Hops and Nick, CG animators. So I just did Tiana.
So wrong. Tiana. So Tom got that one wrong. Okay.
No, I said Tiana.
Wrong.
No, that was my guess. Was Tiana.
I got partially
right. Partially right.
Okay, but I'm going to go a little deeper dive. Here we go. This one I'm not sure about, but I'm going to throw out Aladdin. Did you do Aladdin?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. That doesn't count. Okay, but this one, I'm going to be shocked if you say no.
I feel like I could do this better. Go ahead.
No, you can't.
Go ahead.
Cody and Oliver from Oliver and Company. Not Oliver, the dog. What's his name?
Dodger and Oliver.
Dodger.
Yeah.
Please.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
Goofy on the ladder.
This Father's Day, celebrate the dads who taught us to love the outdoors with Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Right now.
Several of the scenes, yes.
Okay.
I did the first scene of Goofy on the ladder when he sets it up.
Now I heard that I think you did Mulan, but I heard somebody told me that you didn't do that. Did you do Mulan?
Of course.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, okay, good.
Of course, Tony.
I mean, I felt like you did by the work that I saw, but somebody said that, and maybe it was Nick.
I did Mulan.
All right, then I'm going to guess at this one. This is more of a guess. I was sure about Dodger and Cody.
Aladdin. Okay.
Aladdin, I wasn't as sure about, but I did think it was Aladdin too. So you're saying I got all three of those wrong? That's really disappointing to me. But
you got the first one right.
I know, but that was more obvious. Simba. How about Simba? You did Simba, I assume.
Young Simba.
I did Simba and Nala.
Okay. All right.
Okay, good.
So. I thought so. Okay.
All right, Tom.
But those are small parts. Okay, then tell us.
You're mostly wrong, though.
Be quiet, Tony. Now you go, Mark. You tell us which other ones we missed. Is there others?
I did a total of 29 characters for the short.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay. But
wow. I don't know that we have time for all this. Is this really how you want to spend?
Did you get to do any Mickey? That was one I had a question about.
Yes, I did. I did a couple of Mickey shots. Mickey
did
and
you do the
Minnie
Mickey
together.
and Walt? Mickey
No,
and Walt
that was
Eric Goldberg. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought I had heard Eric Goldberg did Mickey and Walt. What was the more meaningful Mickey scene that you got to hold on to and do?
When they start singing the song Mickey and Minnie, Minnie comes and stands alongside Mickey, and when everybody starts to leave to go back in when Goofy blows it, and he's like,
Right.
wait, don't go. That was
cool.
my Mickey.
That's
And then
nice.
right at the very beginning, right after Mickey wakes up in the first picture, and he's talking to Tinkerbell, and I did Tinkerbell throughout the thing.
Oh, that's cool. And at the end, isn't Tinkerbell in the credits? Doesn't she come in?
Yeah, I did Tinkerbell throughout the short.
Okay, great.
I
All right,
did
so Tom.
That was my geek moment, and I didn't do too well. I admit it. Okay.
Yeah, you spent like 10 minutes on that. We only have so much time with this legend, and that's what you wanted to talk about.
I have one
want
more
to talk
question,
now.
though, Tony. You're going to transition. I can't leave 2D animation until I say this. I produced a film called Pencils versus Pixels. Mark Henn is in this movie. Have you seen it yet, Mark?
I have not.
I knew it. You
I'm
have
not
to
sure
see it.
I'm not sure where do you see it at? Can I see it?
You're
on
not online
streaming or
enough
YouTube?
to know. Yes, I've been announcing this and talking about it online quite a bit, but you're not there. I get it. So I'm going to tell you right now. You go to Apple TV, you can buy or rent it there, or you go to Amazon, you can buy and rent it there. So, do you have an Apple TV sort of box?
Yeah. I think my daughter said she saw it.
Yeah, have your daughter or your son help you find that. You'll find it. It's out there.
It's huge.
You got to.
But you're in it, so you have to
you're
watch
in
it. And you're gonna cry like a baby. It'll get you in the feels, I think, in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So back to the positive side.
Okay.
The career, the journey that you've been on with Disney feature animation is immense. We've talked about some of the features that you worked on. Whatever comes to your mind, I'd love to hear any kind of anecdotes, stories, any kind of memories about some of your highlights in your career. What are some of the more meaningful moments along your journey that you could tell us about?
That's tough.
Tony.
Well, okay, let's start at the beginning. You worked with Eric Larson. He trained you.
Yeah.
You worked on Mickey Mouse, which was a legendary character, and you were a young kid doing Mickey for the first time. So,
that's what kind of made Mark Henn, is what I always heard, was like, you got on a Mickey's Christmas Carol and you had done an animation test. Tony, I'm backing up a little bit. You did an animation test with the Emperor of China. What was that? The story?
Mickey and the Nightingale.
Mickey and the Nightingale. And you'd done it as just a test, and it turned out so good that when the feature came, Mickey's Christmas Carol, they put you on Mickey, but maybe not right off the bat as the head of Mickey. But did that evolve into that as they saw some of your scenes?
No, Bernie saw my test, and
Bernie
Mattinson right away said, I think you could do Mickey. So I was, primarily animated Mickey. Also did Jiminy Cricket and Goofy on Christmas Carol. But Glenn also did some Mickeys, Mike Sedino. I mean, there are other people that did the Mickeys, but I did the lion's share on the film, I think.
Wow. And how old were you?
22. Well, no, I was 20. By the time Christmas Carol came out, I was 25.
So back in those days,
in those
days,
24.
Are we talking about like a 2-3 year production? I mean, like, how long did you guys have to animate a film like that? Because nowadays, or later on, it was more like a year and a half, if I remember right, for a whole, just the animation phase. Did you have a lot more time back then?
Yeah, because the what happens today, you know, people, they set release dates, and then it's like it kind of gets compressed back into that, and that was not the case. The films would get developed, they'd go into production, they'd keep looking at them, and then they at some point they'd say, yeah, I think we could get this done in the next 6 months, so we'll set a release date. And it's completely opposite.
So like you
of
could
the
be
way
like
it is today.
halfway into the movie, animating it and stuff before that release date really gets chosen.
At that time, you could, yeah.
Yeah.
That changed quite a bit.
And then right at the, you know, you have to remember too, we had the strike right towards the end of the production of Mickey's Christmas Carol, which kind of, I think most of the animation had been done. Cleanup may have been close to finishing, but I know when I came back from the strike, they threw me into effects to help out do effects and in-betweening and things to help get everything finished up. But it wasn't until Great Mouse Detective, Basil of Baker Street,
you rebel,
old school,
that they kind of said, great, we're going to make this movie, but we need it done in 18 months. And at that point in time, 18 months was like, what? That was shocking. It was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get
and
this
how far were you in it? I mean, I assume you were already animating at that point.
We had started a couple of sequences. I don't remember how far along, because we also, that was the film that we started while we were on the lot, and then we moved to Flower Street. That film went to Flower Street, and we finished it up there.
Got booted off the lot, right?
Yeah, we were asked to leave. Yes.
That's a whole nother story.
But that was a big thing, because considering now that, you know, it's still several years in development, our films are, but the production schedules are, you know, animation is like 10 months or less, which just seems almost unheard of. But then you have 100 or more animators working on these things to get them done. And we never had that many animators in 2D. If you had 50 animators, that was a big crew. I mean,
yeah,
you remember that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And things grew a lot. Take us back a little bit, because one of the things that our audience may not know is that in the old school 2D animation way of casting animators onto scenes, in the beginning, like on, I want to say on Mickey's Christmas Carol, like we're talking about, Great Mouse Detective, there was supervising or directing animators, and you kind of were in charge of a sequence, and you really kind of dove into all the characters within that sequence. Later in the 90s, more like, things changed, and then it became a casting system where directors cast you as an animator, and you supervise one character consistently through the movie. My first question is, did you like that change that happened, because it meant you could, as an animator, focus more? And when did that, or did you prefer the old school style? And when did that change for you, where you actually got your first supervising a character in a film?
Well, I suppose it was always somewhat cast by character, but you're right. It was also more a sequence. So you might, like on Great Mouse Detective, you'd work on a particular sequence, but I was largely cast as Basil and Dawson and Olivia, the little girl, throughout the film. I had the opportunity to do a sequence where when Basil meets Ratigan for the first time in the movie, that was a lot of fun. But it was kind of sequence, you know, driven at that point. And that's how the directors were kind of broken up that way. The films were cast. So it was like a Ron sequence, or a Dave Mitchner sequence, or a John Musker sequence. So that was kind of how the movies were divvied up. Starting with The Little Mermaid, I was cast to do Ariel, and Glenn and I both, you know, handled Ariel throughout the film. With, you know, he largely did the song. Part of Your World was the bulk of his his work and a little bit of the reprise, and then I was kind of throughout the film from beginning to end. But we were cast on characters, and it was big enough character that the two of us, there was enough work for us to go around. So it just kind of happened, I'd say, at least from Little Mermaid on. And there again, you still had a Ron sequence or a John sequence. They divided the film up, by sequences of what they were going to do.
Yeah, and I remember that from Aladdin. I was doing a few different characters, but I was cast. I was an animating assistant, so it's a little different. But Ron and John definitely had their own sequences they were directing or kind of more in charge of. Let's put it that way. And then, so sometimes I'd be talking to John about a sequence or a scene, and then sometimes it was Ron. But let's talk about character design though too. Is like a lot of people don't know this, is that say back in Ariel with Jasmine later on, where it was a very much clear cut supervisor system. Let's put it that way. You designed Jasmine. You came on, and I remember that process. I was there watching you do it. You came on. Nobody else was doing. There were inspirational concept art that had already been done and boards and things like that influenced. But you were doing the final design of Jasmine. With Ariel, it seems like it, from what I've seen, drawing wise, because it's a little bit before my time, Ariel was generally designed by Glenn. But so back in that old system of more sequence directing and things like that, would there still be supervisors that were designing the characters, kind of like more in charge of the character design process, or would they have like a overall character designer for the whole feature film?
Well, they had, designers come on, and you're right. Glenn primarily ended up coming up with the final design for Ariel. I would take those designs and do some test scenes or something, and we would just, it's like we're test pilots. You take a craft and you take it out and see if it's going to work. But I remember too, like when they were looking for Ursula was a big job, and I think eventually when Ruben was cast on it, he really kind of brought all the ideas together. Glenn was doing drawings, Matt O'Callahan. There were other people doing a lot of different
Rob
design.
Minkoff. Rob Minkoff did.
Rob Minkoff, exactly.
Yeah,
early on.
But Ruben, when he was cast to animate Ursula, he kind of brought it all together. And I know that his looking at some footage of squids and octopuses really was a light bulb going off for him. That kind of opened the door and unlocked, Ursula. So it all depended. There were, I wouldn't say that character design was necessarily my greatest strength. I had the opportunity on several occasions. Simba went through very quickly. I remember just, doing a lot of sketching, a lot of drawing, again, based off of what development artists had done. So I could take it and I could, give it my going over. And then there was a meeting. I was in Florida at the time, and I flew out here, and it was a part of the meeting was to show Jeffrey, all the stuff of not only some story reels, but some character designs. And I had a board of Simba stuff pinned up, and it just went through that quick. And somebody turned to me and said, "I think you just got Simba approved." I'm like, "Really?"
What? Yeah, because that could be like a 6 month. At the time, it was like a 6 month process, right? I mean, it could last a while.
It was very quick. And then by contrast, like you said, Jasmine was a bit of a struggle because she was the third princess that I was, having been assigned to, and it's an old story how my sister became my muse in that sense. But before that, we had the whole Al Hirschfeld thing that Eric brought to the production. And so that was kind of, how do you get that into the character design? So I was, that was a bit of a struggle,
challenge.
but
just for our audience, like every time a supervising animator comes onto a character, there's a lot that's already been done that are strongly influencing. Usually, and you tell me if you agree with this, the character's 80% of the way there. It's like pretty close. And now the supervisor's coming in and kind of taking it the rest of the way there, doing the final model sheets and really refining the character. Do you feel like that's kind of true? Maybe 80 is too strong. Maybe it's 70 or 60, but
yeah, I would say that that's not consistent. It could be that way
different
in some cases.
every time. Yeah.
But every time it's not the case, because like on Princess and the Frog, we did a retreat. The supervising animators, we went to Ojai and spent a weekend, and that's all we did. And everybody worked on everybody's character. So in the morning, we'd say, we're going to focus on Lewis the alligator, and then have to have break for lunch and then come back in the afternoon, and we're going to focus on Tiana. Wow. And then after dinner, we're going to focus on Naveen. So we did that for a whole weekend. And
that's a lot of fun. Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was a great weekend, and but we all learned a lot. And Eric will tell you how he'll say, you know, we sent him to Gator School because he felt he was kind of falling into some cliches in terms of design.
Oh. Uh-huh.
And through the conversations that we had, we kind of pushed him to be more, you know, look at a real alligator, you know, and yeah. He did, and that was like eye-opening for him, and he realized that, you know, he was just kind of relying on some cliches. So, you know, it was a very, very productive weekend. But I can't say that, you know, it's 80%. There's a lot. You're right, though, Tom. There's a lot of legwork done ahead of time that, you know, becomes a springboard for the supervising animator to look at it. Sometimes it's very close, you know, and you don't have to do a whole lot of tweak. And other times, like I said, in the case of Ursula, you look at some of those Ursula early designs, it's like a completely different character.
Sure.
And, you know, so it depends on the production. And it always has. And
now, this is maybe a big pivot, but again, going along the lines of your legacy and milestones in your career, it was at the point of Little Mermaid, as it was starting to turn the corner and wrap up, that you decided to take on Florida Studio, meaning you moved your whole life and career to Orlando, Florida, to be part of the opening of the Disney Florida Studio.
This was 1989.
Yeah, that was a big pivot for you. I want to know, first of all, why you made that choice, and what did it mean to you?
And I want to add a layer to this. This was not an obvious choice for any animators in California. Disney was having a hard time getting people of your caliber, especially Mark, to make a commitment to move to Florida, because Florida had a very negative, it was like, oh, that's that sort of TV studio. It was
they're just going to do shorts. That's what they said in the beginning.
It was originally going to do shorts, and so a lot of people were looking at it as like a step down, and Mark Henn did not. And so I'd love to hear this answer. Go ahead, Mark.
Meet the most insightful way to never scoop again. Litter Robot 5.
And action. Well, I didn't like the idea of Florida at all. When they announced that this was happening, I really hated the idea. You know, they're opening a theme park and they want to have Disney animation, and the thought of just willy-nilly opening an animation studio with Disney's name on it. I understood it from the standpoint of the parks and what they were trying to do, but I didn't like the idea. I really didn't. And I spent a lot of time soul searching and prayer and just trying to understand, what this was going to mean. And eventually I got to the point where maybe if they're, bound and determined to do this, that maybe instead of, it's one of these join them rather than beat them, as the old saying goes. And I really was conflicted about it for the better part of a year. And
But they
I
wanted
really
you to
struggled.
go, right? Was there
They
a
were coming.
pressure there?
Yeah,
Well-
that's the way I heard it. Is they came to
Yeah.
you at a certain
Yeah.
point.
Well, I don't really remember anybody coming to me. I went to Peter Schneider, and that was a pivotal meeting. I had a meeting with Peter Schneider, and I went in and told him, I said, this is weighing heavily on my mind and my heart. I don't like the idea. I'm not sure what to do about it. And it was that meeting where Peter made it very clear, to use his expression, that there was a need to have tentpole people as part of the studio in Florida.
Oh yeah.
And so I went into the meeting feeling uncertain. And when I left the meeting, I had, made a complete 180 in terms of my thinking that, okay, I'm going to do, and I was, because originally it was going to be, oh, they're just going to do Mickey Mouse shorts. So I'm like, am I willing to give up my love of doing feature films to just do Mickey Mouse shorts? But I'm like, well, if it's going to have the Disney name on it, I really want it to be good. I want it to have, be Disney quality.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
time,
pivotal for me.
At that time, you were the Mickey guy. So that's also why you were such a perfect person for this opportunity.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of what happened. And
so what did it mean to you? So now let's fast forward. Florida. What did it mean to you?
Well, I got to meet people like you guys. And we got to play a lot of ping pong.
We sure did. Park walks.
Sing park walks. And you remember the time we went and we did a video where we sang Elvira?
We did the karaoke Elvira. That's right. So
that's right.
No, I'm very fond and very proud of what we did in Florida. And maybe you don't know, but it wasn't long after we had opened. I think Mermaid had come out, and the powers that be were down visiting, and we had a meeting, and they pretty much said, this is working. How do we make a feature studio out of this group? And it was
started,
within
early on,
very quickly. So and just the talent, the fresh talent of people coming in, and then eventually what we did, and then creating 3 feature films out of Florida, was just very special.
This is just me gushing now, but you did become that father of animation to the Florida studio, and I say father role because you certainly were that for Tom and I, but for all of us younger generation that came in that were like trainees or newbies, you were a big reason why we were so excited about being at the Florida studio. And through time, you helped raise that studio up in your leadership role to be something where it went from being, like Tom said, nobody wanted to be there. And what is this joke of a studio that they're doing? And it's really just an attraction. It's not real. It's not a real studio. It went from being that to being one of the all-star studios, one of the all-star groups, making some of the best 2D animated features of Disney's history. That's where we made, let me just say these credits real quick. I mean, there was Roller Coaster Rabbit, there was Trail Mix Up, there was all these great shorts that we did on top of a large part of Rescuers Down Under, a larger part of Lion King. Every time they would go back to us, they would ask for more and more of the Florida studio helping out. Beauty and the Beast. And then, of course, there's Mulan being the first feature that the Florida studio did on their own.
They said nothing could fix it, but wait till you see this.
If your back is slouching like this, watch. So you just want to slip this over your shoulders, pull the straps, and would you look at that? Hi.
Lilo and Stitch and Brother Bear were all produced in entirety there. So,
and Tony, this isn't a question yet. Still gushing. I want to add to this, which is you said Peter Schneider said tentpole, and I know you're being humble because that was so true. That literally everybody at the Florida studio looked at Mark Henn as a tentpole of the studio. I honestly, and we all know this, and I think any studio person from Florida would say this, we would never have gotten feature films, Mulan specifically, in Florida had Mark Henn not been a part of that studio. Because Mark, you immediately started, as soon as they started switching Florida, that mindset of, okay, Florida is a Mickey Mouse and Roger Rabbit shorts kind of a studio, to, oh, wait a second, Mark Henn's there. We're behind on Beauty and the Beast. Let's give a chunk of before that it was Rescuers Down Under. Sorry. Let's give a chunk of Rescuers Down Under to Florida because we're so far behind and we need the help. They did an amazing job on these shorts. And yeah, we were doing great. Us newbies, we were doing great in cleanup. We were killing ourselves doing great cleanup and stuff. And they saw the value in us also. It wasn't 100% you, but there is no way that they would have given chunks of Rescuers Down Under to Florida had Mark Henn not been there, because you came on, you did Bernard and Bianca. I was your cleanup, your key cleanup person. So I can say this, you got major important shots in Rescuers Down Under right off the bat. And that would have never happened had you not been there. So I just, again, no question, I just want to applaud you and thank you, Mark Henn, that you made so many careers by planting your feet in the sand and saying, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to make Florida work. And by the way, there's a ton of people behind me that want that same thing. But we were on your shoulders. There's no doubt about it. You were you were lifting us up, every single person there. And I can't tell you, if we're going to talk about legacy, I'm just going to
make me cry now, Tom.
You made so many characters and so many lives, changed our lives by being that person that committed himself to Florida. And that in turn also made some amazing entertainment that came out of that studio. So thank you, Mark Henn. It has to be said.
Very kind. Thank you.
Two people right here.
All I'm going to say is ditto. Absolutely. But let's go back to you personally. You went into it not wanting to be there, but then you dug deep and you found something within you that said, no, this is an opportunity. This is a challenge for me to make something, to build a studio from scratch. That must have been part of the excitement, I would imagine. And you bought into that 100-fold, and you dug into that, and you worked really hard and became very productive. I want to say too that this is a time in your career. You were already fast as an animator, but I think in Florida is where you really grew to be considered, I don't mind saying this, the fastest animator in the world, one of the fastest animators in the world. I know you don't like, talking just about speed because it usually negates the fact that you were doing quality animation also, but it didn't. You were fast and doing high quality, great performance animation. Was that part, how important was that part to you, that part of being able to be fast, and why was that? Why was that important to you?
Well, having more of you in the film, I know has always been.
You're answering for him, Tom. I wanted him to say that.
But I want to hear that. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the very beginning when, in order to get a screen credit, you had to have 100 feet of film in the film to get a screen credit. And I remember in the early days, I'd sit and watch at a wrap party, and it got to be a little frustrating to sit there and watch a movie and just have just a few of your scenes come up, and that was it. That was all. And you're like, that's. I just spent a year, 2 years working on something for a half a dozen shots or something. I mean, it just seemed, and I just wanted to have a greater impact. So it was kind of conscious and kind of unconscious how I just, you develop your workflow over time, and it just kind of came. Really, it wasn't about being the fastest. It kind of just came that way. But it was more about having an influence in a film. I wanted to have as much. I didn't want to be
There's a reason Home Depot never mentions this option in their store, but they can't stop me from revealing it to the public.
A bench sitter, and using a sports analogy, I wanted to be first string, be out there amongst the starters, on the court.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to have as much of an influence as I could on these films, just because I love animation so much and what we're doing, and that's basically it.
And just to put a little context to that for our audience, when we're saying he was fast, he literally was known to be able to animate about the same workload of 3 animators, sometimes 5. If it was somebody slow like Tony, about 5 animators. So 5 Tonys,
maybe seven Tonys,
maybe 3 to 4 Toms. I don't know, but but just to put it in context, so that's how fast. Now you did kind of hint on something there, and I do want to ask this question, and I hope it doesn't come off negative. Is I felt like there was a part of Mark-Ken that, and I think this is true of your whole career, because the Mark-Ken I know has very rarely, because you've given so much to Disney. I feel like you haven't been given the accolades as much as you deserve to, honestly, throughout your whole career. And I know later on in the CG age, this is definitely probably, you kind of hinted that this is part of why you're leaving or why you left. But even back then, like, was part of your decision to go to Florida kind of go, hey, here's my opportunity to break out of the shadow, to stand out, break out of the shadow of some of the people, the Glenn Keanes, even. I'll be specific. And I know that you guys are good friends, so it's not a negative, but to say, hey, here's my chance to kind of take a new route and say, this is my chance to shine.
This is what Mark can do.
Well, maybe a little of that. I don't know. It's the idea of being a big fish in a small pond at the time. I don't know.
Yeah. Sure.
I can't say that was first and foremost on my mind. But there may have been some of that in my thinking. I don't know. But again,
whether or not it was your goal, it definitely happened, right? Right. That big fish in a small pond paid off in such a big way for you that when you did come back. So let's fast forward a little bit. When you left Florida, 2D was still a thing. I'm trying to remember, but it was definitely in trouble. So talk about that coming back to California at Disney. And after the Florida studio got shut down, and I know it's a bitter memory for all of us that they shut down the Florida studio, and you're on top. You were the top guy in Florida all through those years. And it was, we're going to say 10, 12 years. I can't remember how long the studio, it was about 10.
I was there 10 years.
Yeah. Cause you left, you didn't stay to the bitter end, if I remember right.
The studio closed in 2004.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I moved back in the fall of 99 to, we were finishing up John Henry, and we essentially moved all the post-production work back to California. So we came back here, finished up John Henry, and then I had some sabbatical time to take.
So I don't know if that was your original plan, but you ended up staying basically at that point. I remember just seeing some early sketches you were doing for Treasure Planet. I don't know if you worked on Treasure Planet. Did you?
You're not credited.
I did not. Ron and John had approached me about possibly doing
the female, the mom,
the mother, the mom. Yeah, they were going to ask me to do the mom, which
I actually have some drawings of yours of the mom, because you were thinking about it. Well, yeah, I have those drawings.
It didn't work out. So when I came back, they were well into Treasure Planet, and then Sweating Bullets was in development, which was the original production title. So I was doing some sketches for that as well, and then
you got pulled into Emperor's New Groove, I remember too, right? Because they were
yeah. So at some point, Emperor's New Groove needed help, so I got pulled in on that, which was a lot of fun, and I got to do a fun little sequence with Pacha
and Kuzco.
I remember Kuzco. That as they're falling down the and they're kind of
they get stuck in the wedge of the mountains, the chasm.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And they have before that they had their fight. So that was a lot of fun. But then I went on a sabbatical, and so when I came back, it was
The Planet Fitness Black Card. Access any location, bring a friend anytime, and recover in the Black Card Spa.
My name is Markus Bedowski. I'm a motion designer from Cologne, Germany, also working on major sports events like athletics and football. When I saw the new Intuos Pro, I was wow! Even after 20 years of using Wacom products, I'm really impressed how they managed to create such a great product. I love the express keys, I love the new dial, very haptic feedback, which I was always looking for. That's a perfect position for the express keys and for the dial, because I can feel its position, I can feel its options, and I can feel what I have to do to reach my aim. The new Intuos Pro fits perfectly in front of me. You can really work on pixels with pen pressure, with pen tilt. The resolution in video is getting higher and higher, and that's why I need more precision in every project I do. Wacom products and Pro Pen 3 give me the highest precision I ever received so far. I love the new Pro Pen 3 because it gives me a lot of flexibility and options when changing the weight, by changing the size of the pen. The combination of the dial and the pen give me many more options when I'm using Premiere.
time to work on Sweating Bullets, which became Home on the Range. Yeah.
Sure.
And you were a major force on that film, from what I remember. I wasn't at the studio. I'd gotten to VeggieTales at that point, but I remember hearing that you took on two of the three cows, I think.
I did 5 different characters on that show. I ended up with one cow, 2 buzzards, 1 dog, and Pearl, and 1 villain. So that's
I know you did the Rosie O'Donnell cow for sure, right?
No, that was Chris Buck.
Oh, the one
I did Grace.
Guest. I'm wrong.
Grace, the little one, yeah.
I did the one that couldn't sing. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've only seen the movie once, so
I'm
sorry.
Hey, so and after that, and I don't want to hit on everything because we'll be here forever, and we're already going long. Audience, just be prepared. Your IMDb has you credited for working on Madagascar as an uncredited animator and Over the Hedge as an uncredited animator. Those are not true. Yes,
that would have meant you leaving Disney to do that, probably.
Yeah,
I know they
left Disney.
I never left Disney, and they also have me credited for doing Bambi 2. I never worked on that, so you can't believe everything you read.
But I do think Andreas Stasia worked on Bambi 2.
But I think you
Andreas
did work
worked
on
on
Enchanted.
Yeah,
I did work on Enchanted.
Okay,
the first one,
because that was still kind of in the Disney fold, so you were still a Disney employee and all that.
Yeah.
Now going into there, you went through the transition. Let's talk a little bit about this. Big transition happened. Another pivot point in your career was 2D animation kind of being left behind, and now everything's turning CG. And you alluded to this a little bit already, that you worked on Meet the Robinsons, and that was your first kind of foray into CG animation. What was that like for you? Was that a high point? Was that a low point in your career in making that transition? And obviously you went back into 2D animation, which is your first love. So I'm guessing some of this.
I would have to mark it as a low point. They almost fired me. So I almost lost my job. And that was a real low point. And the transition was hard. I was originally slated to be one of the supervisors, and then they took almost 3 months to decide what they were going to do with me. They kind of knocked me back from being a supervisor to just being rank and file animation. And then there were questions as to whether or not they were going to keep me. So it was very low point, and I guess I realized how maybe too tightly I was holding on to my career, and how maybe I needed to let go a little bit in my mind and my heart. Because this is all I know. This is all I've ever known.
Yeah.
And so that was important lesson to learn, but it was definitely a low point. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I can say I have that. And I think the work I did was okay, you know, all things considered, first time out. I didn't feel personally that I had the support that I would have liked to have had to get through that transition a little better, but it is what it is. And it was, I said, it was a lesson learned from, you know, personally for me, but yeah, I'm glad that, you know, again, we had another management change, and in steps John Lasseter and Ed Catmull, and next thing you know, we're doing Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh. So I'm just very thankful that those came down the pike.
I'm glad you brought up that transition too in the studio's history of John Lasseter coming back in and Ed Catmull, because that was another pivotal time where there was real changes going on. Everything kind of turned CG. Now, publicly, the studio and particularly John Lasseter was out in the public saying, you know, we're not just a CG studio. We're not opposed to 2D animation. If the directors choose, this is the line that we always heard on the outside of Disney. The public, line was John Lasseter saying, if the directors so choose to do their film in 2D, we're going to do it, and because we are a director-led studio, and therefore, if Ron and John or Glenn Keane or something wants to do their films that they're developing in 2D, so be it. Yeah, we're really open to that. It just so happens that.
Presenting Odd Pieces.
That looks so cool. What is...
Right now, everybody wants to do all these films in CG because of the power of the computer and what it can do. And so that was the public line. What was your impression of what was happening with Lasseter? And was that real at all?
I think it was real, but it wasn't practical. I think he honestly, you know, felt that way. I know Ed had mentioned to me and others that they felt that was one of the regrets they had, was that they couldn't do more with 2D animation, that they weren't able to do that. And so I think in sincerity wise, I think that they would have liked to have done that, but the practicality of it, that the studio was behind them being able to do that, wasn't there. They didn't have the support that I think they would have liked to have had.
Do you think in a way it was John Lasseter's way of not being the guy that killed 2D animation at Disney?
I wouldn't go that far. I can't, because I mean, he brought it back for at least 2 films. So
yeah, and on the other side of that, Tony, and this is working toward a question. I had heard that, and this is slightly documented in my film, Pencils versus Pixels, is that, like Pete Docter says in our film, you know, we never saw us coming along and creating CG animation and making just great CG films like Toy Story. We never saw it as killing off 2D. That was not our intention. It wasn't what we wanted to do. And I've heard the opposite, that Lasseter was very pro 2D. He just wanted them both to sort of survive parallel, like keep moving forward. They're just 2 different tracks and 2 different film styles. And that I think even he was sort of caught up. And that's the part I want to hear you say what your thoughts are on, Mark. Do you feel like that was sort of him greenlining Princess and the Frog and things like that was a little bit of like, no, we could keep going with both things. Why is it one over the other?
Yeah, no, I think I was certainly that was the effort to make that happen. But I think, you know, CG, the writing was on the wall, that with the success of what Pixar was doing at the time, and we were slowly coming into that world, the CG world, and that it was just, you know, the writing was on the wall, that's what they perceived, that audiences were only going to accept, that nobody was going to sit and watch a 2D film. There were several, you know, negative reviews on Princess and the Frog that basically said, this is just a rehash of what they did in the 90s. It's nothing new here, which, you know, kind of stung a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but I think that, you know, it just was the way the studio perceived that what was going to be the most successful was a CG film versus a 2D project. So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Jennifer, the head
Jennifer
of
Lee,
Jennifer Lee, thank you, has been quoted more recently about Wish, about how there was a point where they were talking about having some 2D elements, and I know the Star character was, I haven't seen the movie, but the Star character would be one of them that they were going to do in 2D. It seems like a very obvious choice to do it in 2D, and that they pulled away from it. And one of the comments she made, and I can't believe she said this, and I know she's a friend, so I'm not going to make you dig too deep on this, but was that she felt like that there needed to be an extra subtlety to the acting and performance that they could only get through CG, and that, you know, 2D had, she was at least hinting at, was too kind of what we would call, say, maybe vaudevillian acting and performance,
broad,
too broad. And that CG was the better way to go. That 2D just really is kind of left in the dust, is what she seemed to be hinting at. Do you have any comments on that sort of thought process at Disney?
Well, it was certainly disappointing from our point of view that we didn't get a chance to work on Wish in that capacity.
When you say we, you mean like the 2D animators?
The 2D, Eric, myself, Randy, you know, the 2D group. We did tests early on for an earlier version of Star, which was completely different. And then they completely rethought the character. It went from being kind of this humanoid character that could transform into different shapes. I did a test, Eric did a test, Randy did a test.
We promise a 10-fold refund if it doesn't work. Traditional dentures can lead to jawbone loss and alter your facial contour over time, but this denture completely avoids such issues. It can be
based on some early designs, and then they had a complete rethink on the character, and it became the little Star character that it is now. And I think that there was, even Eric did a test with that design, working with a CG character, but I think the practical production reasons largely killed off that idea of being able to do it 2D. I think it would have been a lot of fun to have had that opportunity, but again, it was out of our hands, and the powers that be just looked at it, looked at the schedule, looked at, you know, what it was going to take, because it was, again, you have to kind of almost create a somewhat sub studio, 2D sub studio, to be able to handle all that. And so I think that from those practical point of view, they finally had to say, we can't do it, which it was disappointing. I'll be honest, it was disappointing.
Yeah. I've often thought that for Disney to do anything close to the length of a feature in 2D these days, instead of reinventing the wheel within the studio and creating that pipeline again, it would probably be easier for them to subcontract out to other studios like Ken Duncan Studios, for example.
Pencilish Studios, thank you.
Or Pencilish Studios, or any of those, that are doing fine 2D animation on a smaller scale. Do you think there's any that would be a viable option for a Disney feature, is to subcontract out to other studios?
It wouldn't be a Disney feature then, in my opinion. You could certainly do that. We wanted to, a lot of us wanted to work on Mary Poppins 2, but we were prohibited from doing that. They wouldn't let us. I got to do that for Giselle on Enchanted,
right?
And they wouldn't allow us to do it. So and Enchanted 2 was handled by a completely different 2D studio, and yet it's got the Disney name on it, but it's not Disney animation, and that to me was important.
And that's such an irony, right? Because it is a Disney film, right? It's still got the Disney name on it. And yet they wouldn't let their 2D people that were looking for opportunities to do 2D Disney animation work on it. I know that had to have been a bitter pill to swallow. But that's where we've come. So I am trying to land the plane here, Tony. I know we're going to get there. So I do have a question though, which is maybe a little bit more pointed. Is I feel like and I'm going to start with a compliment, Mark, and which is I've seen a lot of growth in you, and I'm just saying this man to man. I'm not saying this as mentor to somebody I look up to as much, more man to man a little bit, and that. And some of this is spiritual too, is that I know you're a man of faith, and Tony and I talk about our faith on this podcast, so we don't shy from that. But when you're telling that story earlier about how, the humility that you sort of had to kind of find in yourself when you went through that CG turmoil, that change, and how it affected you. You went from the highest 2D animator, that one of the most respected in the whole studio, literally in 1 to 2 films within, I would say probably 2 to 3 years, I'm guessing, to feeling like, oh my gosh, I am a cog in the wheel. You know what I mean? To take that kind of hit. I know it hurt you. I know that would hurt anybody. But somebody that was at a legendary status, and to all of a sudden feel like, oh wait, you guys are about to fire me? Like who saw that coming? And to me, that just says a lot about Disney too, and how backwards they were thinking.
Oh, it's all about Disney. Yeah.
Especially at that time. They were looking so short. They were not looking at the long-term game at all. I still think they're not enough, let's be honest. But to me, I just want to also say, you're now looking back at that and going, I can see things I need to learn from that. And wow, that's saying a lot, that you can kind of look back at that and go, I grew from that moment. And now I want to sort of fast forward to you leaving Disney. I see in between the lines of what you said there, that you can now leave Disney and probably feel like I didn't quite get everything done that I wanted to get done there. Like, I feel like the last few years, I'm putting words in your mouth, but that maybe I didn't get to do all the things. Obviously, you said you wanted to direct. There were things that you wanted to accomplish that you didn't get a chance to. But maybe that moment of you're still relying on, that you learned from that moment of humility that you had to go through.
Okay, so everyone thinks baked on grease needs strong chemicals to get it off, but that's a lie.
All right, not doing anything special here, just spraying the whole oven. Everywhere it's dirty, it gets sprayed.
And now it's fully covered. I'm just wiping with a soft towel, not scrubbing hard. This is literally coming off, nothing sticking. And yeah, that's what the actual glass looks like when it's clean. And look at that reflection, it's spotless.
Now I'm doing the same thing inside, and this is where it's usually the worst. Old grease, burnt spills, stuff that's been baked on forever. And again, not scrubbing hard at all. All that baked on grease is coming right off.
And guys, that's the inside now. Looks like a brand new oven, and it took less than 5 minutes.
All right, so my name is Sarah, and I'm the founder of Dr. Clean.
So Dr. Clean works on pretty much anything, and it cuts through stuff you'd normally have to scrub for days. Watch, even on this rusty sink drain, all it takes is an easy wipe of the cloth. And there you have it. The rust is literally gone in seconds. And so my dad, who was a doctor, actually came up with this formula years ago. But
can you just talk to me about like how you're looking at this next phase of your life, basically? And I do want to hear what you have planned, if you do have any plans of staying in animation and animating on the side or for fun or whatever. We've seen John Musker is doing shorts on his own since he's retired.
Great short.
Yeah. I'm hip, and it's on the short list for the Academy Awards. And congratulations, John Musker. Is some of that, where are you at mentally, I guess, is where I'm really going. And what is that leading you into?
I feel like we could have just said, what's next, Mark?
No, I want to, I'm trying
10 minutes
Tony,
later. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm trying to massage his brain a little bit here to get to this.
You're trying to lead him. Just let him answer the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still doing some animation. I'm working, finishing up the last episode of Pups of Liberty for Bert and Jen Klein's little.
Oh, for those that don't know, what is Pups of Liberty?
Bert and Jen Klein and their picnic productions. We've done for several years now. We've created a series called Pups of Liberty, which is a historical kind of retelling of the American Revolution using cats and dogs. And it's
that
started,
is not Disney. Not Disney.
That's
right?
not Disney. No, but of course Bert still works at Disney, and Jen used to work at Disney, and
you did
so
too.
it's,
Yep.
and I did too.
But it was on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a side project that was a passion project of Jen's primarily, and we both share a real interest in American history, so it was a really good fit. And I don't do a lot of freelance at all, but this was arguably one of the more fun projects that I've had to work on. So the first two episodes were a longer format, about 15 to 20 minutes. There were the first two episodes. Then they changed the format to focusing on a specific founding father or character from the Revolution, like Ben Franklin and George Washington, Alexander Hamilton. And they have, these dog equivalents like Alexander Houndleton and George Woofington and Benjamin Franklin. So, and then each one of those episodes focuses not only on that person, but a kind of a specific virtue that person represents. So I'm finishing up the last episode of season 2 with a character by the name of Collie Pitcher, which is in history, it was Molly Pitcher, whose husband was an artillerist, and she helped, when he was wounded, she helped pitch in firing the cannons during the Revolution.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So I'm finishing that up. I had 16 boxes in my office to bring home, and I have to figure out where I'm going to put them. So when I get the pups
in my office, that's where you're going to put them.
Yeah.
In your office.
I have room. I have room in my. I'll
make
put them wherever. Yeah.
So I've got to get that also. So there's still a lot of dust settling for me right now. So, but I hope eventually I'd like to do some more painting, personal paintings, and
sculpture,
and things like that. No, the sculpture kind of dried up, unfortunately. My foundry closed, and my studio is full of sculptures that I can't move at all. So they're just collecting dust. They're collecting dust. But so we'll just have to wait and see what the good Lord has laid out.
But okay, so more poignantly, you said you wanted to direct and you had ideas. Are you saying a short is that you direct and create is out of the realm?
I've always said if I couldn't achieve my goals at Disney, then there's really no other place that I want to do that. If I couldn't do it at Disney, then it wasn't what the good Lord had meant for me to do. So I'm it's a little disappointing, but that's okay. I'm gonna look ahead to do some other things. I'm not gonna. People have asked me if I was gonna do a short, aside from what I'm doing for Bert and Jen, where I'm just animating for them. That's not on the horizon.
Well, it's a lot of work. You'd have to be a production manager, a producer, a director, basically kind of wear a lot of hats. And
we've seen Andreas do that. He has his Mishka short, which has not become so short anymore. I think it's like 22 minutes or over. So it does become a consuming thing, right?
Yeah, well, even John, listening to him talk about I'm Hip and what all, and just the literally small studio he had to assemble. With production people and cleanup artists and musicians and
it's a lot.
It's not just simply him animating it and coloring it and shooting a test. It's a lot more involved, and I'm just not sure I want to tackle that right now.
But what I'm hearing, wait, Tom. What I'm hearing though, this could be interesting. So if Peninsula Studios or the Bancroft Brothers had a little project that maybe it was interesting, Mark Henn might animate on it.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is important. The shooter who murdered my sweet little Daniel brought a highly lethal weapon with him to my son's first grade classroom at Sandy Hook Elementary. In approximately 4 minutes, he shot 154 bullets, killing 20 children and 6 educators. Now, Congress is working on solutions to prevent school shootings, the kind of legislation that might have saved my sweet son Daniel from being murdered. We need your voice with us to help us ramp up the pressure on Congress and keep kids safe in their classrooms. Please sign our petition right now and demand Congress finally take action to prevent school shootings.
Or maybe it's a feature film that's going to bring some 2D back. Would Mark-Ken be interested in that? Or are you going, I don't want to do freelance? I'm retired.
At this point, I'd have to say no. Like I said, I've got a head full of other ideas and that are not animation related beyond doing Pups. This could be the last Pups episode. We don't know yet. Bert and Jen have to, talk to their people that they work with to see if that's, has a future or they're going to do something different. But in the meantime,
fans can see they can see your work in Pups. And so for the fan side of point of view, I think that's great that you've continued to help them with that. And maybe
and where can we see that? How has that been released?
They've been putting them on YouTube now. So if you just look up Pups of Liberty Pups of Liberty Short Tales is the new version, is the new series.
Right.
You'll start to see those.
And now I'm not a pastor of a church or anything like that, but I feel like if you're praying for what is next for Mark-Ken, but I'm praying that Mark-Ken decides to work with Tom Bancroft, could potentially I win that if I pray harder? How does that work? Because I want to figure that out.
That's a spiritual question.
It is. I got a little spiritual at the end there, but can my prayers intercede your prayers? Is what I'm saying.
That's up to God, I think.
I'll never say never at this point, but that's not the direction I'm hoping to go.
Okay.
Yeah. Just know, Tom, that he did say no to Florida at first.
He
did.
Did.
That's worth remembering.
I did.
Thank you, Tom.
That's worth remembering.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should it has gotten late.
This has been great, Tony.
We could really keep going. I know. I feel like there's so many
things
things that we could have talked about or should talk about. Maybe we could bring you back in the future. So maybe you're not animating with us, but you're on the podcast again. That would be great. We'll do that in the future.
Mark,
maybe.
we were so tempted, mostly me, to get you to name names and really talk bad about we didn't do that. You took the classy route, but thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate that.
The transparency has been really refreshing to hear from you. And I guess the thing to say though, I mean, from our point of view as fans of yours, of friends of yours, people that have worked with you, I just hope and that you've been properly celebrated. I don't know if there's any level of proper celebration to talk about your career.
Who lists a car and then tells you everything? Every modification, every scratch, every receipt, and 742 photos. It's not oversharing. It's why you can trust what you see on Bring a Trailer. It's never just a car. Bring a trailer.
If you're someone who cares about the healthy eating and increasing the protein in your diet, listen up, because we've got
and what you've given, but this was our little way. We wanted to have you on the podcast just to celebrate you. And I know we went into other topics and stuff like that, bitter Tom, but just know that what you've contributed.
I have a documentary I have to feed, Tony.
Yeah. But just know that what you've contributed to the legacy of Disney animation, it really cannot be counted. But we want to be counted as people that were highly influenced by you, Mark. So thank you for what you've given to us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
It means a lot. You guys are very special, and we've got some great memories. But again, thank you. It's I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I want you to know your legacy lives on through us. I'm just going to go one slight step further, which is we are instructors now. And I can't tell you how many times Tony and I both talk about Mark-Ken, his philosophies, the things we learned from you. We are passing that on. And I know other people are too. So thank you for affecting whatever happens with 2D animation, especially down the road. You're going to be a part of that legacy as it thrives and lives on, which I think it will. Thank you, Mark.
Well, I've been very blessed and I'm very thankful. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Well, God continue to bless you, Mark Hen, as you go into what's next. We're totally excited, and we will be there rooting you on, whatever that is, Mark. And Tom, as we always say, animate from the heart.
Like Mark Hen. I changed it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, guys.
Mark.
If you like what you just saw, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pencilish Studios.